Well, let's bring in now our strategist. We have Democratic strategist Andrew Acosta with us today, as well as Republican strategist Nick Mirman. Let's talk about what we just saw with Walt and this notion of this kind of red mirage, if you will. Do you think that we can extrapolate a great deal from these initial numbers, 8%, 13% reported?
Not a lot. The fact of the matter is that these votes that are being counted right now in really rural parts of the state, as Walt mentioned, aren't going to reflect the broader electorate in the state, right? Especially those urban voters in Los Angeles, San Francisco, the Bay Area, San Diego. So this could be a high watermark for a lot of these Republicans as we move through the night and start catching some of that polling location vote. But it's going to be tough for a lot of these guys to hang on, and I wouldn't expect them to.
Very interesting. Now, on the Democrat side, still a lot of hope and excitement here. We're not even 20 minutes in yet.
Yeah, as Nick said, these are several 100,000 votes out of 9 million that have to be counted. So we got a long way to go, and these are smaller counties that can get through their votes counting a lot quicker than, say, Alameda or Los Angeles.
We know when this governor's race especially first started, there were some suggestions that perhaps Democrats might get boxed out. Now we're hearing it might flip and that we could see 2 Democrats heading into November. What are you hearing on the Republican side?
I mean, the amount of whiplash in this race over the last 4 weeks and then the last 48 or 72 hours has been unbelievable. We went from Democrats running around with their hair on fire, worried that they were going to be eliminated from the November runoff, to now Republicans being in that same seat. You've got 2 great Republican candidates in Steve Hilton and Sheriff Chad Bianco. Steve Hilton has the endorsement of the president and seems to be the front runner on the Republican side. Are enough of those early Bianco supporters going to peel off, follow President Trump, and vote for Steve Hilton? That's what the Hilton camp is really hoping for and wishing for.
And, I have to ask you on the Democrat side here, how much did President Trump help or hurt in that regard?
Well, we have this open primary system, so there's a game that gets played where people try to put their thumb on the scale. What we've created, though, is Democratic voters who are watching every poll, analyzing everything to make sure that they make the right call. And I think some of them have now come to the conclusion that voting for someone like Steyer will box Hilton out. And if that is enough of the progressive side where they come out and can move that needle, then they can box him out. And it could be 2 Democrats that move on.
Do you think so many primary voters are thinking strategically, really in that kind of a way when they're facing gas prices that are sometimes, at one point nearly $7, more than that in some areas, high housing costs and food costs, when they're facing those issues, how much does strategy really play, you think, in the primary?
I think in this race, I think a strategy, it became much more about polls than positions. Voters weren't going to the website to read their positions on homelessness. They were trying to figure out who's in first place. How can I make a difference in this race? And I think some of that is, we should be blamed, like Democratic Party putting out polls and all these polls I talk more about polls to reporters than I do about what the candidates' views on, what you just talked about, affordability and some of these other issues. But that's sort of where we are today. And, we saw our governor take on Trump with Prop 50, and there was a lot of energy around that. I don't know if all of that energy has come forward, but there's clearly we got to make sure that Trump and the Republicans don't win. That's definitely out there.
Yeah, you make a really good point. And speaking of the cohesiveness, just really quickly touching on the Republican side, because there is more of that cohesiveness with the party, especially rallying around President Trump and with the endorsement of Steve Hilton, do you think their strategy might have to change? Should it become the top 2 being a Republican and a Democrat?
Absolutely. I mean, the Republican is going to have to appeal to a whole bunch of voters that really don't like President Trump. I mean, President Trump's approval rating is in the gutter in this state. You can't win as a candidate statewide if you are trying to hold on to his coattails and ride to victory. So there needs to be a major recalibration for the Hilton campaign in terms of how they're talking about specific issues and the type of voter that they're talking to. In a primary, you're spending most of your time, if not all of it, talking to the base voter, talking to the base Republican. Andrew's folks are talking to the base Democrats. Now they've got to get outside that bubble, especially the Republicans, and start talking to independents, soft Democrats, try to win them over.
Depending on what those top 2 results look like, right?
Depending.
That's why we're here. We're going to be watching it throughout the night. We are just getting started, folks. Stick around. We're back right after this.